Welcome to Impact Makers Radio, helping you to find jargon-free information before choosing a professional to help solve your problems and live the life you love. And here's your host, Stuart Andrew Alexander.
Hi everybody, and welcome to another Let's Talk Divorce conversation. And during this segment of the show, I'm really happy because we finally have, and I say finally because she's a very busy lady, we finally have family law attorney Heather Tessmer, who is the owner of the Tessmer Law Firm, P.L.L.C, and she's calling in all the way from San Antonio in Texas. Now, Heather, who has a wealth of experience in the area of family law, will be talking to you today about what to expect when you're planning to divorce. So, if you are one of the increasing numbers of people in the San Antonio area and you feel that today's topic may be of relevance to your current situation, you just might want to take a break. Log out of Facebook, quit the Twittering and the Instagramming or anything else you happen to be doing which may cause a distraction. And you may even want to pick up a notepad and pen and get ready to take some copious notes as we listen in to what Heather has to share with us today. So with that said, as I said before, she's very busy, so let's not keep her waiting any longer. Welcome to the show, Heather.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
You are so welcome, my dear. So let's just jump feet first in, Heather. It obviously, before we start the show, it goes without saying that anything you share with us from this point on is not legal advice or legal assistance. It's purely for the purpose of disseminating general information. Now, would you just care to expand on that in your own words, please, Heather, so that all the listeners know exactly what we're doing today?
Sure. This is just for informational purposes, and we want everybody to have a good idea about what they need to do when they're planning for a divorce. But if they really want to have legal advice, they probably need to see an attorney.
Fantastic. Thanks for making that so clear then, Heather. So please take a brief moment to tell us about Tessmer Law Firm and the people who you serve and the kinds of situations that they find themselves in when they come to you for your help.
Well, Tessmer Law Firm used to be an all-female law firm, and we recently hired my husband to be our office manager. So typically people think that we are here to serve the female portion of the population, but in reality, we serve about 50-50, both men and women. So we help our clients who come in with any family law problems, but we really like when they come to us early enough that we can help them plan for their divorce so we can get through it in a healthy and efficient way.
Okay, thanks for sharing that with us, Heather. And by the way, your husband sounds like a very lucky man. I mean, working in an office with all those beautiful females, lucky guy. Tell him from me, okay? So anyway, moving on. When you think about all those people who you just described, okay, those people out there in the San Antonio, Texas area, what are the advantages of them knowing what to expect when they're planning for divorce?
Well, we like them to know that it can be very simple, and it can also be very difficult. And it really just depends on their spouse and what attorney they actually hire. Because if their spouse wants to be very difficult, then they're going to make it difficult for everybody. So we, of course, go through the planning stages. We tell them exactly what the pleadings are when we start the divorce. But our biggest thing is when the clients come in, that we want them to make sure they know what their marital estate is. We've had some people come in here who don't even put their own gas in their car. So we really try to help them get educated before we start the process so we know what to expect when their spouse starts providing information to us.
So while you're going through that process then, Heather, of stripping everything back before you can actually get to a point where you can start really helping people, what are some of the biggest myths that you come across when it comes to planning for divorce?
Well, one in particular is a little bit disturbing because Texas is a community property state, and people think that that means that the community estate will be split 50-50, and that is not correct. The law is that you will have an equitable split of the assets. So there are a lot of factors that come into play to make the division of the assets more favorable in your side. So that's one that's a big myth that we try to educate our clients about. And often we have to educate the attorneys on the other side as well. The other myth that comes up a lot is about retirement. A lot of people think that you have to be married for 10 years before you can get their retirement. Some people think that you have to split yours and not take theirs. And really what it is, it's, again, an equitable split, but whatever the community portion of the retirement is, does go to the other spouse. So if you have a man who's been working for 20 years and a wife who stayed home, whatever he's been able to put aside while he's been married, there will be an equitable split of that retirement.
Okay, so now that you've shared that with us then, Heather, and I'm sure that the listeners are very clear because that's such a great explanation, what are one or two of the common misconceptions out there surrounding the legal industry? Now, both you and I know that people can go online and they can research, do their own due diligence and come up with their own prognosis of what they believe to be true. However, I'm sure when people sit down in front of you that quite often what they believe to be true is not true. So please share a couple of common misconceptions that you come across surrounding your industry, the legal industry.
Well, one of them is that we have to be adversarial. And actually, we don't. Kind of a new thing that's going on in Texas is called collaborative law. And that is something that takes us completely out of the courthouse, and we have to work together with professionals to figure out what we're going to do with the children and with the estate. We can also work that way through the litigation process, where we actually work together to come up with our inventories, and we work together with a professional to split that community property. And that mediation is a wonderful tool. And it just helps because if you have children, you're going to be working with this other parent for the rest of your children's lives. So it's nice to start that relationship on a good foot. Another misconception is that the law firm is going to do all the work for you, when really it takes a lot of work for you to bring in all of your financial documents. We need to see every credit card statement. We have to go through everything with a fine-tooth comb, but our clients are able to do a lot of that work themselves. So it's not just come in, give us money, and you're going to get divorced. It actually takes some work on your part as well.
So, Heather, as I alluded to in my introduction, the numbers of people out there who are getting divorced or considering divorce are increasing. They're certainly not decreasing. So with that in mind, Heather, what are some of your clients' most common fears about the divorce process itself?
If there are children involved, every parent is terrified that they're going to ruin them. The divorce process can be very difficult on the kids, but if both parents are on board and they work together, the kids are going to be fine. I do suggest that we immediately get them into counseling. I always try to get the parents to go to a in-depth parenting course where they actually work together to learn how to communicate with this new part of their relationship that they're going to have. And another one is we often have a client come in who's been married to a brain surgeon for 20 years, and she's terrified she's going to end up with nothing. So we have to educate our clients about these subjects and just kind of make sure that they realize that they're going to get through the process and they're going to be okay.
So with that said then, Heather, how can they actually get past those fears? What do they need to do?
Well, sometimes they actually need counseling, and we have people that we work with that they've actually come to our office to see our clients if need be. Really, I think that it's a good thing to help the kids get through the divorce process. We like for them to, depending on the age of the children, let them know that things are changing, but of course not to speak about the actual divorce process with them. So the parenting courses are great. There's a bunch of counselors around here and in the Bernie area that specifically work with children who are going through the divorce process with their parents.
You know, Heather, I'm so glad you just mentioned that point of not speaking in front of the children about the divorce process. And in general, just being very mindful of what you do, what you say, how you act in front of the children. Because the very reason for us having this particular series, Let's Talk Divorce, and for inviting experts like yourself to come onto this show, is to give those children indirectly, through the advice, through the insights that experts like you shared, is to give them a voice, because I like to call these children the invisible voices. I myself was a child of divorce. My parents went through a very volatile, a very violent divorce. There was lots of blood, lots of fighting, lots of conflict, and that all happened in front of me. And I was 9 years old and had to carry the guilt of my parents' breakup because I didn't know how to process that. And I ended up carrying that throughout my whole, my life as a child, as a teenager, and even as a young man, and way into my mid-40s. It wasn't until then that I actually developed the tools and the capability to be able to deal with the fallout of that guilt that I'd been carrying all my life, and the guilt that had such a negative impact on the decisions that I made on life, whether it was with work and my profession or whether it was relationships with the opposite sex. It just had a massive impact. So this is the reason why we bring experts like yourself onto the show, in the hope that if there are any people out there in the San Antonio, Texas area who are listening right now, and maybe they are at loggerheads, maybe there is a lot of conflict, and maybe even rightly so, maybe, you have a right to feel really upset with your partner. However, if there are children involved, I beg you, I implore you, and Heather has alluded to it before, please be mindful of how you communicate and what you do in front of the children. Because believe me, as a child of divorce myself, I can tell you 100%, hands down, that you cannot hide anything. We pick up on every single nuance and carry that on our little shoulders, and it can have, especially like in my own case, it had a huge impact on my life in a negative sense. So I'm so happy that you brought up that point there about how to communicate in front of the children, and I'm sure that's something that you deal with on a regular basis when people come to see you, Heather. So with that said, then what would you just like to share with some of the listeners out there who may find themselves in that unfortunate position where they do have children and there is conflict? What kind of insights would you like to share with them? And again, this is not legal advice. This is just general information.
Right. I try to get my clients to act like adults, and sometimes that's really difficult, especially when we have a difficult person on the other side. They just know how to push buttons. But I always tell my clients, if you're in a relationship that is violent, or, you just don't want your kids thinking that that's what a marriage is supposed to be.
Right.
It's much better to go through a divorce and let your children know that you stood up for yourself and for your children, that is not how a marriage should be, and that you're going to stop the cycle. And I think that the children really appreciate that, because they at least will know that marriage that their parents had was dysfunctional. It's when that parent stays in that relationship and the kids think that that's what a marriage is supposed to be, that cycle just continues to repeat.
Exactly. And just to underpin what you just said then, Heather, I always say, regardless of your situation, love your children more than you hate yourselves at this particular time in your life. So I think we've covered that particular topic. So in regards to working with a family law attorney like yourself and Heather, what are the perceived obstacles out there do you see that might be preventing people from seeking the help of a family law attorney?
There are several reasons. One would be that they think they can do it themselves. So that's very scary. Another is they think that staying together is what's needed for the children. So that's another big one. Another one is financial. They are scared that they're going to end up with nothing. And often their spouse will tell them, I'm going to take the kids and you're going to be penniless. And that terrifies specifically women most of the time. So, and that stops a lot of people. So it's a scary process when you really don't know what's going to happen.
So can you share an example of how you have helped someone to overcome those obstacles that you mentioned and succeed in having a successful divorce? Now, you don't obviously have to mention anybody's name. You could talk about how you would go about helping somebody or your philosophy around helping someone. But if you could share that with us, that would be very useful for the listeners out there.
Well, we have started a divorce workshop for women. And this is one way that women in particular can get away from their spouse on a quiet Saturday morning and come learn from 3 different professionals what to expect when they're planning for a divorce. They have a legal expert, which is typically me. We have a financial expert that's out with us, and then we also have a mental health professional, a counselor. And we each take about 45 minutes and just do an overview of what they can expect from all 3 different categories. So we invite a lot of people to come out there and hear that presentation, and it helps them decide whether or not they're going to go through with this process. We're also gearing that towards our military community here in San Antonio, and we will actually be on the bases with this same presentation, but it'll be geared towards men and women. We also just ask that potential new clients come in and talk with us, because anything that they want information about or are scared about, we can usually talk to them and just make them a little bit more comfortable about what the possible outcomes might be.
As a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, my guest today is family law attorney Heather Tessmer, and she's here today talking about what to expect when you're planning to divorce. Now, with that in mind then, Heather, and for those people listening in right now, what are some of the common pitfalls and mistakes that you come across while you're out there working with them on a day-to-day basis?
One thing that always gets the red flags up in our office is when the other side wants everything to be expedited. They're in a hurry. They want everything signed today. That's a huge red flag, and so we try to let our clients know that something's up and that they should not be just signing off on any agreements. Another kind of mistake, I guess, is when they choose an attorney because they're so inexpensive. There's something that we as family law attorneys say, that there's nothing more expensive than a cheap attorney. A lot of them don't realize that there's a lot more that needs to be done besides a final decree of divorce.
Okay, so how can those pitfalls be avoided then, Heather?
Well, with the rush and the expedited divorce, we just need to make sure that we've done our due diligence and we have an inventory and appraisement from their spouse. We need to verify that this is all that's out there. We need to make sure that we split out the community property and make sure that there is a fair and equitable division of that property. Typically, there's something going on when they are rushing us, so that just tells us we need to slow down and look at things a little more carefully. The other pitfall is when the clients hire an inexpensive attorney. Typically, these attorneys are less experienced, and they don't even realize what all goes into a divorce. Besides the final decree, we also do powers of attorney to change titles on the vehicles. We also have to do qualified domestic relations orders in order to split out any retirement from either party. We have to make sure that the deeds are done correctly. It just takes a lot of work besides just having a final decree. And if we don't get those things done within 30 days of the final decree, we have to start over with a whole new lawsuit. So we just really try to make sure that everything is actually an exhibit to our final decree so that we don't miss any deadlines.
So Heather, when you think back to all of the people who you have helped throughout the years, the people who you've helped to create that, as I like to call it, a transition, because at the end of the day, yes, you're a family law attorney, that's your title, sounds very dry, but between the lines, essentially, you're a transformationalist. You take people from point A when they come into your office or give you a call, or when they sat down consulting with them for the first time. So you take them from point A to point B to where they want to be. So you're causing a transformation in their lives. So when you think back to all of those people who you've helped to create that transformation so they could achieve the desired outcomes that they were looking for when they initially reached out to you, what do you get from that when you're able to achieve that for them, Heather? What do you get from it, and how does that make you feel?
Well, I say that I've been through hundreds of divorces, but I'm still married to the same man. We've been married for almost 29 years now. And one of the things that has inspired me as a divorce attorney is my wish for everybody to find that same kind of relationship that I have with my own husband. And I know it's out there, and I know it's possible. And so when these, particularly women, come in and they've had this dysfunctional marriage, I think divorce is actually a thing to be avoided unless there's a problem, usually with your spouse. So I take great pride in helping these clients move on with their lives, get restarted, and be proud of themselves and confident that they can survive this and get on with their lives and that it's going to be better.
It's quite a fulfilling profession that you're in then, isn't it, Heather?
It really is. And it's a horrible thing to go through, even when it's not adversarial. Mm-hmm. But we really take the time with our clients to make sure they're well taken care of and that we do everything we can to help them through the process.
So Heather, as you alluded to, you've helped hundreds of people with their divorce cases. And I'm sure that when you think back to how you got started, that you didn't just wake up one day and say, I'm just going to be a family law attorney, and you waved a magic wand and it just happened that way. So there's always a winding path to where we find ourselves at this current moment in time. So with that said then, Heather, what inspired you? How did you get to the point of becoming a family law attorney?
Sure. Well, I actually started out as an insurance litigation attorney. I had my own firm, but I only had one client. And I, at that point, had about 15 employees, and we only did work for one particular insurance company. About 6 years ago, they sent a contingency of attorneys to my office to learn my systems. They wanted to sit with my employees and see how we worked these cases through in such an efficient manner, because I was the number one attorney in Texas for them. I actually asked them point blank if they were going to take the business in-house, which means that they were going to hire attorneys to work for them, the actual insurance company, and I couldn't get a straight answer. So I knew something was happening, and I instantly was able to put up some billboards, which we've actually become very well known for with the Ever Argue with a Woman billboard. And we had to just see what was going to come in the door. And most of it was clients who needed help with their divorces. So we started educating ourselves. We went to classes. We did everything we could to learn how to be the best attorneys and paralegals we could be. And we actually made more money the year that they did go in-house and kind of left us high and dry than we did the final year where they were our clients. it was a very difficult transition, but we made it. And in the 5 years that we have been on our own without that particular client, I've been able to get board certified in family law, which only 2% of Texas lawyers are actually board certified. And less than 1,000 attorneys in Texas that do family law are board certified. So it's a big honor that I was able to achieve that in such a quick time. It's really unheard of. So now we consider ourselves to be one of the premier law firms in San Antonio and the surrounding area to help with divorces.
So you've worked your socks off to get to where you are today then, Heather. So please share a lesson that you may have learned early on that still impacts how you do business today.
Well, a lot of law firms don't believe.
I like that sigh, where would I start? Go ahead, sorry.
Well, that's okay. A lot of law firms are proud that they don't do any marketing. And I think that is really a mistake. We do a lot. We spend a lot of money on our marketing. We are targeting our potential clients. So we really do a lot of stuff online. We do the billboards, we do targeted print, and then we do direct mailing type stuff. So, these old law firms might be perfectly happy with the clients that are staying with them. But if you're like us, we have to have clients in the pipeline at all times. So we do advertise, and we're proud of it. So
yeah, I'm proud of you for actually just staking your claim, drawing a line in the sand, say, yes, we actually do market, because I do speak with a lot of people in your profession, and I've heard that quite often. Oh no, we don't do marketing. We rely on word of mouth and referrals. And I'm like, okay, that's fantastic, but look at it this way. I always look at it this way, Heather, and I'm so happy that you just shared that you do do a lot of marketing. What you do now in helping people through this traumatic stage in their life as they're going through a divorce, that is what I like to call your God-given gift. This is what you do with your eyes closed. Obviously, you've worked your socks off to get to where you are and to be qualified, but it's your natural gift. This is what you can do, and it's your passion. Now, if, for example, you did not do marketing and did not put yourself out there so that when somebody is in need of the services of an attorney like yourself and then we're not able to find you, then in essence, I always say that you are doing that person and your community a disservice, because they're going to go somewhere else where they may not receive such a great service that you could provide. So being a shrinking violet does you no good and does your community no good, and especially those people who actually could benefit from your God-given gift. So I'm really happy and proud, and I say, hey, well done, 3 cheers to you for doing that and putting your billboards out there and everything else that you do to help people to benefit from your services, because you're out there doing what you can do what you can do on a day-to-day basis and really help people to achieve their objectives. So well done to you. I just wanted to throw that one in there. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's fun. And we actually get some great reactions from what we put out because it is unusual. The company that we use for the billboards actually won an Obie Award,
Nice.
Which is similar to an Emmy for their industry, for a red sports car with the license plate saying was his. And so that was a really great billboard that we got a lot of great feedback on.
Yeah, it's your duty to put yourself out there. Simple as that. So Heather, we're coming towards the end of the show. I've got a couple more questions for you. So what's the most important question that people should be asking themselves while they're considering what to expect when planning their divorce?
I think it's very important which attorney that they choose. They need to actually research more than one. You need to go and talk to several because we're all different. And once you talk with a couple, you kind of get a feeling for them. And if you click with them, it makes a big difference because you're going to be interacting with this person for a few months at least. So, and the communication is a big thing, and that's something that is often lacking with some of the attorneys that we deal with even. So I think it's very important that you learn how your attorney is going to keep you informed and how they're going to help you and how they're going to advise you through the process. But you also need to remember that as the client, you're the one who's hired that attorney, and you're the one who ultimately needs to make the decisions in your own divorce.
So finally then, Heather, if someone feels they want to know more about what to expect while they're planning for their divorce, how can they find you? What's the easiest way for them to get in touch with you?
Well, one way is by doing a simple Google search. You can find us through Tessmer Law Firm. You can find us by Googling Ever Argue with a Woman. Both of those will get to us very easily. Also, our phone number is 210-368-9708. And by email, mine is heather@tessmerlawfirm.com. And we are very quick to respond to anybody who calls in with a question or a concern or emails or comes in through our website, which is very informational, has a lot of information for divorces and other areas of the law that we do practice.
So Heather, let me do this for those listeners out there in the San Antonio, Texas area. You've just shared your contact details, and that's great. And I know you have a lot of fantastic resources on your website. I've had a look myself. However, even though you've shared a lot of great information today, there may be somebody listening who's still sat on the fence. They're still a little bit hesitant about taking the next step of picking up the phone and giving you a call or sending an email or whatever the case may be. So let's just address that reservation by walking them through exactly what will happen, for example, if they pick up the phone and call. What's going to happen on the end of that call? Because people need to know. They have these fears. Maybe Heather is waiting on the other end of the line with a Fred Flintstone club to hit me over the head and tell me everything underneath the sun. So just tell them exactly what will happen so that they know there's no risk to take the next step.
Sure. No, if you call in here, we do our best to take care of you when you first make that call. So you'll be hopefully pleasantly greeted by our receptionist who will put you through to one of our intake specialists. She or he, which would be my husband, will ask you questions to find out what professional you need to talk to. So if you are calling in about a divorce, we will take your information and we will set you up with an appointment to talk with me. If you decide you are going to take the next step and actually come into our office, we will send you an information sheet that just gives us the basics about you and your family. And when you come in, you can bring that, and you will be invited in for a 30-minute consultation, usually with me. I like to be the first one that greets our new clients as they come in, and I like to help them feel comfortable about the process and about our office.
Okay, Heather, thanks for sharing that with us. You wouldn't believe it, but we are out of time. It's been such a blast speaking with you today, Heather. You've shared lots of great information. So let me just remind everybody one more time. We have been listening to family law attorney Heather Tessmer. Thank you so much for sharing so generously with us today, Heather. You have certainly demonstrated, hands down, 100% without a doubt, that you are a true educator, advocate, and trustworthy advisor for your client's success. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. It was a pleasure.
You are so welcome, my dear. And I'd also like to take a moment to say a big thank you to you. Yes, our listeners out there in the San Antonio, Texas area. Thank you for joining us on this very insightful and informative discussion with one of the leading family law attorneys in San Antonio, Texas today. Again, her name is Heather Tessmer. Make sure you do check her out, ladies and gentlemen. She's got some great resources on her website. You can send her an email, give her a call. You know there's no risk to do that now. Whatever you do decide to do after listening to Heather today, I am absolutely sure that you are going to be in good hands. So that's it for now. My name is Stuart Andrew Alexander, and we'll be back shortly with some more leading family law professionals in this, our series of Let's Talk Divorce Conversations. So until then, take care, have a great day, and we'll talk real soon.
Thank you for tuning in to Impact Makers Radio. To listen to all past, present and future industry thought leaders and trendsetters, visit us at impactmakersradio.com.